Hey folks, this is the Fighting Nerd and his co-host Jolly Roger coming to you from the Resistance Bunker. I'm going to start this off. This movie is going to be how to grip this video is going to be about how to grip knives. But first I want to say hello to my new friends over at Minds. That's a new kind of social media place, minds.com. And I'm going to be posting videos there on top of my YouTube since VidMe pulled the carpet out of underneath everybody. So, for you people at Minds, these videos are made primarily for my Fighting Nerd YouTube channel. And the Fighting Nerd is just that. I talk about things like knives and guns and personal protection. That's the fighting part. And then I talk about things that are nerdy. The nerd part. Science fiction, fantasy, all that type of thing. And some politics as they relate to either the fighting part or the nerdy part. But today we're going to talk about how to grip a knife when you're using it to fight. Okay, here's my disclaimer, folks. I am not an expert. I am not an expert on fighting. I'm not an expert on knives. I'm not an expert on fighting knives. I'm not an expert on fighting with knives. I'm not an expert on anything, really, except not being an expert. Now that's out of the way. I did a video called Fight From Where You Stand, because when I tell people I'm in the knives and fighting with knives, a lot of the times, if they're interested at all, and they're not backing away slowly, wondering if I'm a psycho, they ask me, well, how do you stand when you fight with a knife? And another question is, it's about equally mixed, is, well, how do you hold a knife when you fight? And there are a lot of ways. And I'll go through them as quickly as I can, but basically you have the saber grip or the fencing grip. One saber and the fencing grip are basically the same. You have the handshake grip, you have the hammer grip, and you have the reverse grip. And there may be some other variations. Okay, and I'll tell you, they want to know which one is best. I'll get to that. But first, let's just go over what the grips are. And I'm going to use this classic model Buck 119. Okay, first of all, you have the hammer grip. It's the most natural grip. Hammer grip because it's straight up and down in your hand. The front of the handle is usually aligned with these knuckles. And you kind of use it like you would a hammer. This is a very secure grip. The knife's not going anywhere. Very hard to dislodge from your hand. But it lacks maneuverability. It costs you a couple of inches of reach. And it makes slashing kind of tough, and you wind up slashing with only about the last part of the blade here. Okay, it's just not very maneuverable. Then you have the saber grip, where instead of up and down in the hand like this, or straight across the hand, it is fitted diagonally across the hand with the thumb on top of the grip. This gives it like a saber, or like you're fencing with. That's what they call it, saber grip or fencing grip. Fencing. This is very maneuverable, right? And it gives you a good extension on thrusts. But it is not secure as having the whole thing wrapped up like in the hammer grip. So, and then a lot of people about the saber grip also say that your thumb is very exposed to being cut if you're in a knife, or otherwise hit if you're in a close encounter with somebody that may want to disarm you. Okay, and a very slight variation on the saber grip is the handshake grip. Now this is basically the saber grip, except your thumb's on the side of the knife. It's still diagonally in the palm, and your knuckles are still aligned with the front of the handle. This is very nearly as secure as the hammer grip, almost as maneuverable, has almost as maneuverable and almost as much reach as the saber grip, but does give you more security. And then you have the reverse grip. Now here is one of the few times I'm going to say always when I'm talking about something self-protection oriented. Cap your knife. Get that thumb up here on the top of your knife when you're in the reverse grip. This one has a fairly decent handguard, but there are some knives out there that don't have a handguard, and if without that handguard, it'd be very easy to slip your hand down and cut your knife if you thrust and you hit something that's not squishy and you hit something that's hard. So you get that thumb up here, and it helps prevent that hand sliding down there. So cap the knife. Safety tip, public safety announcement. Okay, now, which of these grips is best? And much like I went through all the different stances in my Fight From Where You Stand video, the answer is all of them and none of them. How you grip this knife is going to depend on a lot of things. How big or how small your hands are, how the knife handle is designed, what the environmental conditions are. Is it raining and is your handle all wet? Is it really, really cold out? And are you wearing gloves? There's a whole bunch of different things that's going to determine how to grip your knife. Maybe you got into a situation where some sort of bladed implement was just handy when you got into an encounter and you decided, okay, I need to pick up a knife, maybe in your kitchen. Kitchen knives are by far the most common weapons used in encounters that are handled by the police. You know, the domestic violence stabbing, right? So in a situation like that, you might just scoop up that knife and you might not know how you're going to hold it. You'll usually wind up in a hammer grip. Okay, so let's go back to the book 119 here. If it were me and I wound up using this knife in a self-protection scenario, then with this particular knife, I would go with a hammer grip. And the reason is this. This is designed as a hunting knife, not a fighting knife. You can fight with it, but it is really designed for gutting your kill. It's just going by my observation of the design. So they left the handle smooth and slippery. So when you got blood and guts all over it from your deer or your squirrel or whatever you have killed, and you're dressing it out so you can eat it later, you can clean this off very easily. There's no texturing on it, no little nooks and crannies for the blood to get in there and dry so you never can get it out. As opposed to, say, this M-Tech model, I think it's an M-Tech model 8020 Sub-Hilt Fighter here, has a lot of texturing on it. Blood gets in there and you don't clean it while it's wet. It's going to dry. It's going to be a pain in the ass to clean. So, because this one is slippery, right? If your hands are wet, if it gets wet, all right. Now you may be perfectly fine in the saber grip or the handshake grip if you're in Arizona or someplace where it's always dry all the time, and you don't have to worry about get away with this. But here, like I live in Ohio, and right now it's cold. It's been snowing. It's wet. You might even be wearing gloves. Right? This is just a much more secure grip. As a matter of fact, if I had my brother and I could get in to the reverse grip because it's just a hammer with the grip with the blade pointing down, got that knife. This is a very solid grip. And because this grip is smooth, you want to use the best grip around it with your hand possible. Okay. So, there you go. Now, I've got a couple of Sub-Hilt fighters here. Now, my hands are fairly large. Right? And you can see that this guard is facing towards me, towards my thumb. So I found when I was practicing with this that if I'm in the saber grip, my thumb jams right up against the inside of the guard. And in thrusting, if I hit something hard, it forces that thing back in my thumb, and it's not really painful, but it's not comfortable either. Or I wind up with my thumb up here in a form of the saber grip, but you wind up with this thing digging into your thumb, which is not a huge deal, but it's not the most comfortable position. So for this knife and my hand, I wind up in the handshake grip. And this knife really doesn't lend itself well to the reverse grip at all, because again, this guard curves back and digs into your hand. So this design of a knife really lends itself, for me, into a handshake grip. And it's very similar with this sub-hilt fighter. Again, because my hands are fairly large, I wind up with my thumb jammed right into the guard. Unless I choke back on it, and that brings the handle back here, and I don't like that. It's not a secure grip at all. And again, or it's up here. So this knife, I wind up in the handshake grip. And then you've got this Schrade SCFH15. This is one of my routine carry knives. I carry this one with me quite a bit. This one is optimized for the saber grip. It feels very unwieldy in the hammer grip, and because it's a shorter blade, slashing with this thing is really tough, because you wind up slashing with this tanto part of it here, and that's about it. It really costs your reach, and you can't afford it with a blade this small. So it's got the handshake grip. Again, it just the blade doesn't sit right in the hand. The handle, knife just doesn't sit well in the hand. It can be done, but it's very awkward. But it feels fantastic in the saber grip, and it's optimized for that. It's got jimping right here for your thumb. You can get good extension. So we have a knife that is pretty much optimized for a saber grip here. All right, now then you have a knife like this Mora Companion. Thank you again, Mayor Fugly Cool. I won this from a contest in his excellent knife channel on YouTube. This knife has no guard to speak of. Maybe you can call this a guard, I don't. Now, this is not designed as a fighting knife at all. It's designed as an overall camp utility knife. Use this knife for almost anything. Very comfortable grip. I've done a review on this. Okay, but it has a rubberized handle that feels good, and it just grabs the hand. You know, it just feels great in the hand. It's very grippy. It's a non-slip handle, and it's great. But this feels good in almost any grip. But again, because it doesn't have a guard, you want to go with hammer or reverse cap that knife, simply because you do not want to slip down and cut your hand. So again, the design of the knife is going to determine which grip you want to be in. Okay, now there are other factors. You have this M-Tech Model 8020 with finger grooves and a guard. Now this one, again, my hands are big enough that it really doesn't go with the saber grip very well, but the hammer grip. But it feels very good in the handshake grip, and not bad this way, cap that knife. But the finger grooves kind of lead you into a hammer grip with this. You can get out of a hammer grip, but the thing of it is, all you have to really do is wiggle it around in your hand, and it wriggles itself into a hammer grip. Okay, now, so the bottom line here is, it's just like with the stances. There are a lot of different factors and a lot of different reasons, and you're going to find yourself using different grips. Train using all the grips, because you never know what you're going to have. You never know what kind of situation is going to be dictated to. For me and my hands in the place where I live, this is pretty much only something that I use in the saber grip. It's just use. I can do it in the reverse grip, right? And the handshake grips work kinda, but this thing almost forces itself into the saber grip. That's what it was designed, how it was designed to be used. Right. So environmental conditions, the context, the environment that you're using your knife to fight in, the design of the knife, the size of your hand, right, can dictate what grip you use. So train with different knives, train with different grips. Now, everybody's going to have their favorite knife, everybody's going to have their favorite grip, that's fine. But things don't always go your way when it comes to having your favorites. So that's the bottom line. Like a lot of things in personal protection, if somebody says always or never or any of these ironclad, always do it this way, to me that's a sign that they're either blindly dogmatic to a system or they just really don't know anything, either theoretical or real world fighting or with training about personal protection. You can have personal protection guidelines, but in my view, personal protection in a lot of ways is knowing what not to do more than it is what to do. So when it comes to how to grip the knife, as I said, you're going to be fighting the way that knife winds up in your hand. As I said, like in the stance video, chances are, as good law-abiding citizens, carrying a knife or using a knife for self-protection, you're not going to initiate that encounter. A violent encounter occurs, somebody else is going to be the aggressor and you're going to have to respond. And there's a very good chance that when you draw that knife, unless you practice your draw stroke a lot, I practice quite a bit, but I probably don't practice as much as I should. But unless you practice your draw stroke, whether it's a folder or a fixed blade, if you've got a folder, you have to practice getting it open and into action quickly. Even with the new Emerson and Kershaw's with the wave feature, little hook that comes out to live in your pocket, you open it with one hand. It takes some practice. And under stress, if somebody is threatening you or even assaulting you, you might not get into that perfect saber grip or handshake grip or whatever grip it has. You're going to wind up holding that knife the way it comes out of the scabbard or the way it's picked up off wherever at the table it's sitting on or the workbench or whatever. So you're going to wind up having to train. You should train to use all of them, just like you should train from all the different fighting stances. All right, that's my 2 cents. As I said, all the videos that I post on YouTube now, from now on are going to go on Minds, so you can check me out there. I'll post a link in the description of this video. And tell me what you think. Like I said, I am not God's gift. I don't pretend to be. I don't pretend to know everything. But a lot of the times I just find that I come to a greater understanding of the things I talk about by making a video about it. But I encourage comments and questions. And you can even tell me I am flat wrong, as long as you're intelligent and civil about it. If you're a dick, just delete the comment. Fair enough? Okay, that's all I have. This is the Fighting Nerd and his co-host, Jolly Roger, coming to you from the Resistance Bunker, and I bid you good night.